Hey, this is Judging Waits back with some more Black Ops 2 gameplay for you. In this video, we are going to be looking at the Tier 3 or the perk number 3s. I'm going to go over what they do, and then I'm going to give you some advice for using them when you're playing hardcore game types. Now remember, my advice obviously is based on the way I play the game, so there is some bias there, but let's get right into these perks. First one I want to talk about is Dead Silence. Dead Silence helps you move quieter. And I say quieter because dead silence does not remove the sound that you make when you are moving. It just lowers it way down. What it does remove, though, is your callouts. If an enemy throws a sticky grenade, a lot of times you'll hear using a sticky. If somebody has on dead silence, though, you're not going to hear that. So if you're making a stealthy search and destroy class, you might want to use it. I personally don't use this perk because a lot of people aren't listening for those footsteps as much as they are in like Modern Warfare 3. You know, I loved SitRep Pro, being able to hear the enemy footsteps, and I use that all the time. But you don't see that as much in Black Ops 2. Now, Black Ops 2 has released an update, and now you can hear footsteps a little bit better. So you might want to use Dead Silence in, like I said, like a stealthy class. I personally don't tend to use it. Now, let's get into the opposite side of that, awareness. Awareness makes enemy footsteps or enemy movement 4 times as loud. So I told you that dead silence reduces the sound that you make. Awareness pumps up the sound that the enemy makes. So when you use them together, say an enemy has on dead silence and you have on awareness, basically they cancel each other out and you are going to be able to hear them just like you would normally. And that's why I made the point to say, dead silence doesn't take away the sound that you make. It just reduces it, because obviously when awareness amplifies it and you can hear them, obviously that sound is still there. So awareness might be a perk that you want to use. Say you're a tactical player and you're holding an area and you want to be able to hear when people are approaching you from different directions. You might want to slap on awareness just to have a little bit edge in that area. I personally don't use it because I spend most of my time running around and trying to engage the enemy, so I don't stop and try to listen for the enemy. I'm planning on releasing a video that's going to give you a sound setup to use that I think is going to really help you when hearing enemy footsteps. I don't like the standard modes for hearing things in Black Ops 2, but there's one cool tweak that you can do that's really going to help you if you like to be able to hear enemy footsteps or enemy cues and everything like that. So I'll put that out here pretty soon. All right, moving on to the third perk that I want to talk about, and that is Extreme Conditioning. Extreme Conditioning allows you to sprint twice as long. About the only time I would recommend using this perk is in your opening class. If you can get to somewhere faster and engage the enemy where they're not going to expect you, this is going to really come in handy. But as far as when you're in the game playing, I really don't find that I have to sprint for long periods of time. Usually if you're running just crazy around the map in hardcore, you're going to get taken out by people camping or people playing tactically. So that's why I really don't recommend using this perk all that much. The fourth perk that I want to talk about is Dexterity. Dexterity helps you obviously scale things a heck of a lot faster than you normally do. So you can climb up things faster, you also recover faster from melee strikes, and you also aim faster after you're sprinting. So that can really come in handy. When you play the maps like Turbine and Cargo and you're trying to climb up rocks or climb up those crates and everything like that, you know how frustrating it can be not to have on Dexterity. It seems like it takes you forever to get up those things. So if you're the type of player that likes to move around and jump up on things and everything like that, Dexterity is a pretty decent perk, especially with that bonus of being able to aim faster after sprinting. So that's a perk that you might want to check out. Another perk that you might want to check out is Tactical Mass. Tactical Mass helps reduce the effects of flash grenades, concussion grenades, and shock charges. In the codes it says it takes it down 50%, but I tell you what, it feels more like 80 or 90% that it reduces the effects of. Now, this is a great offensive and defensive perk. If you're the type of player that isn't running Engineer, being able to run by a shock charge or get through that pretty fast is going to help you out. On the other hand, if you're the type of player that likes to hold an area tactically, I know that I like to use concussion grenades and flash grenades to throw in at people in certain areas. That way it gives me advantage and I can pop around a corner and usually take them out. So if you're the type of player that is holding an area, you might want to slap that on your class just to help protect yourself against those concussion grenades and flash grenades. Also too, you might just want to have it on a class in case you run into a team that is using flash and concussion grenades. I know that, you don't see those all that often, but sometimes you run against teams that are using that, those things crazy. So you might just want to have that class available to you. I personally like this perk a lot more when I'm playing core game modes as opposed to hardcore game modes. And I'll tell you why. It's basically because I like this last perk that I'm going to talk about. This last perk that I'm going to talk about is my go-to perk. So that's why I really don't use a lot of these other perks. But the last one is Engineer. Engineer makes it really easy to spot enemy equipment, whether it be a claymore, a bouncing betty, a shock charge. It's going to be red and it's going to be obvious where that is. And I really like that because you see a lot more enemy equipment being used in hardcore than you do in core. I very rarely see, claymores and bouncing betties as opposed to in hardcore where you see those all the time. So I think equipping this perk is essential if you're the type of person that likes to move around and try to go to the enemy and engage them. You're not going to get caught off guard by one of those things. You're also going to be able to tell where the enemy is at, because a lot of times people will use betties and claymores and shock charges to kind of protect openings if they're camping in an area. And in hardcore that happens all the time. So if I see a betty around a building, I know that somebody's going to be up in there and I'm going to be able to fire a small or throw in some C4 and take that person out. Or Engineer also delays enemy explosives from going off, so I can run past something, and get in there real fast and take that person out that's not going to be expecting it. Now, besides, seeing things and delaying explosives, it also helps you because you can re-roll care packages. If you're the person that likes to throw out care packages, make sure you have that equipped on a class. So if you get that UAV, you might be able to change that and get a swarm or something like that. It also, when you capture enemy care packages, it also booby traps them. So you get to take what's inside your care package, and when the enemy comes back and tries to pick up that care package that you booby trapped, obviously they're going to blow up and hopefully they'll take somebody next to them out with it. Now, one cool thing too is if the enemy takes a care package and booby traps it, you can actually see that it's glowing red and warn people about it. You can also disarm it. So just go and capture that red glowing care package, and I think you get some kind of achievement for doing that. But that's it for the Tier 3 perks. With the Tier 2 perks, I told you which ones not to use and which ones to use. That's a lot harder with the Tier 3 perks. Dead Silence would probably be the one I would tell you not to use. Extreme Conditioning, that kind of has a limited role. Maybe use that in your opening class. But the other four, Engineer, Tactical Mass, Awareness, and Dexterity, those also have some practical applications and some benefits to use. So, it really depends on what your playstyle is and what you're encountering from the other team. You need to be able to change your classes and have different classes available so that you can adjust to what you're seeing in a particular game. But my go-to class, like I said, is going to include Engineer. Of course, remember though, that's based on my playing style. You don't play like me, you play differently, so you have to do what works well for you. But let me know what you think about what I said. Feel free to disagree with me or tell me how you use a particular perk or how it comes in handy so that we can all learn from that. But hope you like this. If it helps you out, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. As always though, take care and God bless.